see how that goes out. Sorry about the delay. Like you, I was watching Trudeau and trying to figure out what's happening in the ER. I'm on my way there soon, and I wanted to speak to a couple things that have come up since we last saw each other, which was yesterday. Both in the ER and in Toronto's particular response, and I'm going to include that as Canada's particular response because I think that we are showing signs that this is slowing down the epidemic, the pandemic. We are finding ourselves more prepared than some of the other places who have seen large numbers of critically sick people arrive with very little warning. So from those of us who are working in the ER, we feel so much more protected than we did even yesterday or last week, especially last week. And a large part of that is due to the fact that so many of you are taking this seriously and staying home and giving over your life to helping other people, which, as I've alluded to in previous posts, is what the bright side is of this virus and this pandemic. Now, I think what the balance is if we give our lives over to fear, if we're social distancing because of fear, then we're not shoring up our vulnerable places. And by that I mean, so let's take this homeless problem, which we talked about yesterday. It's not a problem. Okay, those people are not the problem. Our problem is homelessness. Homelessness is the problem. The homeless are not the problem. Homelessness is the problem. So as we work to address the causes of homelessness, we become stronger. As we move to isolate these vulnerable people further and further, we don't. So I think that's what the direction. It all depends on how we respond to this. So the messaging that comes out as, stay away because other people are going to make you sick, as opposed to stay distant for now to keep others well. And it may appear the same, but it's very different. Regardless, whatever it is working. And we're grateful for that. Truly. I think that if we can step up that and keep it even, on lock for a week or two, that would be great. Really, the only reason to leave your house is La Croix. Because you can't live on chocolate alone. Chocolate and La Croix. I did leave my house today to actually get more. And that's all I bought, but, that says a lot about how my cooking. But I also went because I wanted to interact with my neighborhood grocer, who's actually a friend of mine. And he said, and this is something that I suspected may have come to pass, all the recently arrived travelers who, for reasons I'm not sure about, left on spring break. No, I'm sure about it. Actually, people got in touch with me and they said, do you think it's okay? And I'm thinking, I can't tell one way or the other. So I get it. I'm gonna strike that from the record. Many people have returned to Toronto and places like it in the last few days. If not, they're on their way back right now. That is a worry for me. Where they came from, I don't know. What was the density of infection in that area? I don't know. My friends who have been in New York, a lot of them have tested positive. Not a lot of them, a couple of them have tested positive. And so my neighborhood grocer said he's noticed their behavior pattern is different than the people who've been doing this for a while. Now remember, some of these people came back from a resort-like situation where there was none of these restrictions. So what we can do to support them is, if you know someone who just returned, see if they have any questions. See if there's any way you can support them, but then explain how serious we've been taking it, what you've done to unpack some of the stress, what the parts of this that you've learned to love. Yesterday we had a dance party with, 50 friends, New York and Toronto. The night before we had a Zoom call that just kind of zoomed all over the planet as time zones changed, and the only rule we had is if anyone said COVID, you had to take a drink. Now, I can't advocate that in a public health way, but you can see what I mean. Now I'm connecting with people who otherwise I wouldn't. There's online classes, there's intentional movie dates from afar. However it is that you've learned something about how to lean into times like this will be of value for them. So if you can reach out to them, that would be cool. We want them to be safe and we want you to be safe. So that's something that I have identified as an opportunity. And I've reached out to some of my friends who similarly are newly back to Toronto in this situation. Okay. So I also wanted to talk about something else. And I just find the spread of misinformation so typical. So typical meaning I have to hold myself back from doing it. I have to hold myself back from doing it because if I hear something, it's like gossip. It is maybe true, it's maybe not true. Certainly the situation is often more complex. So as an example, I know someone who's tested positive, and I've heard it come from a couple different directions. Oh, this person had no symptoms, and they're positive. That's not true. They were classic textbook symptoms. I heard about this person's symptoms over the phone. I'm like, you got it. Classic symptoms. So how does that, but what type of information now that spreads out to diffuses through the clanging, echoing chambers of different groups, and now, super spreaders, asymptomatic. So how do we fight that misinformation? Well, there's reliable sources. We talked about some of the first days we sat together. New England Journal of Medicine. New England Journal of Medicine is good. I would say in Canada, your Public Health Authority, the Canadian Medical Association Journal, Lancet, CDC, to some extent, would be reliable for Americans. Because we're like you, we're waiting for good news. But we're also not buying into a lot of this kind of fear-mongering. I can cover that another day because I have to get to the hospital. But the second thing that is vexing to notice is how some people assume the situation is way worse than it is, and we're somehow all involved in a cover-up situation about, we don't want you to panic and freak out, to know the extent of how we're overwhelmed. You'll know. I will tell you. Your friends would tell you. There's not enough solidarity in a conspiracy to prevent the truth from getting out. It doesn't serve anybody. So, is the situation much worse? Is it a real tsunami? Not yet. Not yet. Do we have time to prepare because of you doing what you're doing? Yep. And what we're doing is another walkthrough today, looking at these parallel pathways about how we're going to keep a clean. Right now, we have enough room. We're keeping a COVID-free part of the ER open because we want you to be sure that if you feel appendicitis symptoms, that we got you too. That's the truth. So If you don't have a verifiable source in one of those places I just mentioned, then I would be concerned about repeating it. That's it. I get a lot of these questions, and I don't have time to respond to them all. I'm sorry, but that's my advice. Okay. A couple other things, and then I want to get to the meditation so I can sit and I can roll. So how do you support your friends who are now starting to test positive, or if not testing positive, who are having symptoms? We're not testing young, healthy people, mostly, yet. Maybe soon, okay? Because we're going to get to a point, there's a threshold point where the case infection rate goes down and our ability to move into an aggressive stance towards catching every case goes way up. Now that requires two things for us. PPE. Not just for us, but once this moves into the community, those people who go and visit you in your home are going to need it. Second, tests and testing. We need an ability to turn these around fast, and right now the lab is just overwhelmed. We have all the other emergencies and this. So those of you who are well and want to get tested or are well and have the symptoms, you have it. It's okay. It's okay. We still got you. You can come and we will care for you. If you're short of breath, if you're sick, if you're worried, you can go to a testing center. The testing center will send you to us if there's any red flag features. But just so you know, if you feel like you have a cold or a flu and you're not that sick, it's controlled well with Tylenol and staying well hydrated, just keep on doing what you're doing. We're trying to get these numbers down to a place where we can now come to you or bring this to a more focused opportunity to capture cases. One of the most important things in this disease, and in every disease, in every aspect of your life, disease or not, is fighting stigma. I don't understand because I'm on the other side of it. I see people all over the planet who are sick. And I see people all over the planet who make them feel bad about it. Or that they did something wrong about it. They did something wrong. So at the same time as you hear, oh, people are asymptomatic and we need to freak out about them. And then someone gets sick and they're like, whoa, what'd you do? Well, great. Kind of cold shoulder them. Not just COVID. HIV, TB, sexual assault. Makes me angry. And it's unfortunate because those people are truly brave. Those people who I've seen, I worked in a TB clinic in Sudan. They fought so many different barriers to get the courage and permission to come and get tested. I just thought they were the heroes. They were brave. Men, women, children. And so are your friends who are sick and who are saying, I have it, this is what it's like. They are similarly our avatars in this. Encourage people to be honest about it. To, shun them or ridicule them is a behavior pattern that I don't. It's very natural, obviously, and it must be within me somewhere, but there's no utility to it. So those people who are your friends who are getting it, they're going to be immune. They're going to be able to get together and party or watch movies or cook food together faster than you and me are. So I think they're cool. And the messaging that they are sick or did something wrong is the exact wrong thing to get out of there. Find out how you can support them. Here's how you can support them. Food deliveries. Safe, put it in a paper bag, food deliveries. Acetaminophen or Tylenol. Encouragement, connect with them. That's the kind of coming together. That's the healthy part of this that is the opposite of pushing people away in fear. In that pushing away, imagine it like the cells in your body that move apart from each other, and in it a virus can fall. That's what I'm talking about. That's what it's like. That's why we say don't smoke. You hurt your cells. You make them kind of weeping and sensitive. And in that space, a virus can fall. So as we kind of keep each other together, we have integrity as a community of people who can shift resources around in a more effortless way. And that's what we're working on. I probably don't have time to speak to the homeless situation here now, but beds are opening up this week. I heard 200 today, but I'm not going to I shouldn't put a number on it. I'm sorry, because that is a big high level discussions. So I'm just going to mention that is an example of us being flexible and us moving into a space where we're accommodating the weak, not out of fear, but because of opportunity. And then the society that we are in, the other side of this, looks different. It looks cooler. It's like one that we can lean into and find jobs in. Someone needs to care for these people, right? Find jobs in that feed us. And feed that need for us to be whole. Spiritually, in body, mind. So this is that opportunity. And we can grow into it. I had written down test. I'm not sure what that means. But, I don't know. Immunity. Okay, so 2 quick pieces, though, that I think they're on everyone's minds. Immunity. It's an RNA virus. Measles is an RNA virus. As far as I remember. Measles is an RNA virus. Hep C, HIV. Orthomix, like mumps. Mumps, measles, you can immunize easy. HIV, working on it. Intracellular, kind of stays in the cells a lot. It's hard to find the proteins to create antibodies to. Coronavirus, we don't know quite yet. It's mutated a couple times. Some people suspect it's actually become less virulent, meaning less case fatality, right, from the changes. So the mutation happens inside the body, because that's when more viruses are getting made, more chance of mutations. With the mutations encode a protein, then it looks different to your body sometimes, so it can be a little bit trickier to make a vaccine. But I mean, generally the sense is probably some immunity, maybe forever. I don't know. I'll leave to the microbiologists and ID people in those reputable journals that I was talking about and news sources to talk about it. And there's a lot out there, but I just don't have time to go through it, so I cheat and I go to these places that I trust. But if you take this conceit that we are, as a society, like a baby, still trying to figure out how to do this thing together, and when we know people in the world right now are starving like they were a month ago and a year ago and 2.5 decades ago. Okay, we're a baby. We don't get it yet. We're getting it. Maybe this is... But like a baby... I don't have children, but when a baby gets infected with the virus, they get sick. They're a little bit sick. things kind of, they withdraw a little bit into themselves. They don't eat very well, they don't sleep very well. Worried mothers come in and they say, my baby's not sleeping or eating very well. You take a look at them, they're cool. And as you rule out anything serious. But then after that, immune system has commandeered that infection. The baby grows like a growth spurt. It becomes stronger, larger and stronger and more sturdy. So if we're like a baby, our country, our city, our hospital, our city, our country, our collective, is trying to come together over these internet wires, then we can get stronger from this. We will get somewhat immune to this. So whether it happens in actual vaccine immunity, I don't know. Canada's working on it. I heard $192 million today. There are many other places who are doing it too. But we can become immune in other ways. We can protect our homelands. We can reduce stigma. We can share information. We can do like you're doing, which is, instead of panicking in the streets, being there for people who you think need some help. So that is a different type of immunity. The other former, God, I want the regular old kind. I want the vaccine, because then I don't have to worry for myself or my family. Okay, last thing is a study that's I've heard about that may soon come to us. I believe it's happening in Spain. You can check that out on the Lancet. And that is taking antiviral medications that are designed to prevent the infection from creeping into those of us who are in very close proximity. So it's probably going to roll out in healthcare workers at some point, or that's where the first study is going to be done, because we are the ones who are exposed on a regular basis. And I just thought that was a piece of good news. I will look a little bit more into it. I just read the abstract, or the description of the study, not even the abstract. It's still just in process, but I consider it, see, that type of thing does actually really work for HIV PrEP. Whether we can do that for this, we don't know, but we're gonna give it a try and find something. All right. So, speaking of something, we're gonna do some meditation now. So, those of you who want to join along, we're going to sit for about 40 minutes or so and kind of chill out. Use this as a chance for us to deepen in our practice and fight these root causes, give us immunity to a certain extent, at least to panic, at least to losing our cool. Okay. So wherever you are, if you want to sit, now's the right time for that. If you want to sign off, that's cool. We're going to do a 40-minute sit that's going to be lightly guided, and we'll close with a loving kindness practice, and then I will tune in sometime tomorrow, probably around the same time. Okay. If you want, you can get yourself into a more comfortable position. Seated or lying. We'll close and end with a bell. So as that echoes of the bell fade, it's going to come into this stability or quiet stillness of the posture, whatever it happens to be. Lying or sitting. The thing about meditation is it does require a commitment. commitment to, at least for the duration that you've decided upon, to be aware. To be aware of what's happening in your experience without fretting too much about what's going on or wishing it away or wondering why it's different than yesterday's. So let's just commit to staying here for however long you can do it for. I'm going to sit for 40 minutes. And in that commitment, I kind of, I don't know, it's like a win. It's a win. There's certain stability in knowing, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And that stability of, or direction, of the commitment to sit and be aware. We're lucky because we have the commitment of our posture. You know, you can shuffle if you want. The idea would be if your kind of restless mind leads to restless legs, just try to stay still and see if your mind gets the hint. So wherever you are, sitting or lying, track, let your attention kind of fall like a leaf landing on the still parts of your body. There's going to be movement in our mind and in the room around us. A seagull just called outside of my window. And your attention, being what it is, kind of leaps out and notices something. But if you want a resting place for it, let's just, for now, have it rest on the stillness of this posture, this pose. We've worked with the breath a little bit before, so if you ever notice that your mind is doing its best work, which is to alert you to some situation, fantastical or past, And you want to remember that commitment we made just to sit for the next minutes. Your breath can be a guide. The out-breath in particular can help you settle into that still place. There's that part at the end of the exhalation that suffuses, sometimes can suffuse your experience with quiet or stillness. And guess what? If that's not possible for you right now, that's cool. We're not trying to make something that is not occur. That's why it's called a practice. When we notice an opportunity, we let our attention fall like a leaf and land on whatever seems solid or still in our experience. That's good. What we like to do in the first, part of a sit is set up a home base. A place where it feels good and you can stay there. Just continue to follow your out breath and a sense of ease. It also feels good to return to if you want to work on some of the other aspects that we come to in these sits, which is a more deliberate knowing of experience. And we do that just by pointing out different aspects of it that you can use as a direction with the bright lens of your attention and concentration. So if you like where you are, we like the rest and stillness of the body. You have the arrow of the out-breath that points towards it. Just turn the volume down and stay there. It's enough. If you want to take a bit of a tour and explore some rest and other aspects of your experience, then I invite you to come along. As you note your body at rest, so say on the out breath you put yourself into a feeling somatic map of your body. There are going to be places where you have quite a lot of feeling. Hands, typically, all those nerve endings. Your face. Maybe you're holding some tension in between your shoulder blades or around your eyes. If you are, let that kind of soften if you can. And notice as you soften there, or notice as you have this little mini mental map of you in space, that the quiet and the rest, their actual kind of baseline quality is spaciousness. An absence. It's not so much the presence of rest as the absence of busyness. Or stimulus. In fact, the spots where there is quiet are not discrete, they're kind of contiguous. there's actually quite a lot of space. And sometimes, only a little bit of you. And what I mean by that is those places where you're feeling this rest or quiet or ease, if that's available or if that's even a small part of your experience, these are actually kind of melted together. And in fact, this kind of spaciousness, the roominess, is not limited to your body feeling. That's also your mind, the talking mind, puzzling mind. The stories kind of occur in your mental screen, but there's lots of space behind them, beside them. For me, I cannot see anything that, when my eyes are closed, I cannot even imagine anything at where the back of my head is. Space. Blank. In this room, you'd say, even in my hearing, outside hearing you, in this room, there's sound. It's not silent. But there's just this very little bit of sound. It's pretty much all silent. To my right, silent. To my left, silent. Behind me, quiet. Tiny bit of street noise. Tiny bit of warning bell on a much deeper space. So if you like, you can stay with this play of space in the body and how, like, the right metaphor is of like a seep into each other. You can notice it in your thinking mind, that even all the stories above, below them, behind them, there's more room. In your environment, what It's mostly just open. Or you can hold all, look for that character in all the aspects of your experience, because sometimes it can pervade. And what becomes dominant is not the sensation or the sense object, but this other truth. Like there's very little bit of something and very lot of spaciousness, room, blank. It's okay to lose track. This is a practice. This is a loving practice towards ourselves. But if you do and you're following, then you know the routine. Out breath. Quiet. Quiet in the body. Space in the body. Spaciousness, kind of connected. Thinking mind. Room. Mostly room. Above, below. Space behind the back of our head. In the physical exterior, some sound, but mostly not. And hold all three. Or work with one, or stay with the breath. That's good. Now, if you're following along and enjoying that sense of space and roominess, just hold the truth that you're actually both what's occurring, the sounds, the feeling, the mind. And this kind of larger palette. Both things are true. As that bell finishes its vibration that was occurring on this wide, almost infinite room and depth. We enter the kind of final part of the practice, which is, as it has been these last weeks or so, the dedication of merit, or the commitment of the work and goodwill that you generated during this time that maybe started off as something for ourselves actually is transformative in moving our focus away from ourselves actually towards helping other people. And yet we must take care of ourselves. That's number one. But once we do, and once we know how, then we can slowly start to take that towards others. Slowly, with many mistakes. But in that spirit of space, commit to remembering that we have enough to house the homeless, to make enough rooms in hospitals if we need them, in our hearts to include strangers and people far away. You could never fill it up. So for all those people who've recently returned from spring break, or who are feeling alone or afraid in our neighborhood or in our city, in our country, in places far away, we feel very little space in which to find hope or feel hope. As if we could just kind of beam it to them. Just a little bit. You can choose a particular person if you like. I'm going to choose my father, who's alone in Alberta, having recently lost my mom. And I'm going to send it to him with this practice and in my actions. Let him know that he's not alone. You can choose someone or keep it more general, but make it like a wish. All of the integrity you can muster for that person or that group of people who you feel needs some kindness, a room of their own. And say silently or aloud your own kind of invocation. May you feel safe. May you know what it's like to be cared for and loved. And may you feel strong and supported. Shit. Getting older is not easier. Okay, I gotta jump to the hospital soon. Thanks for sitting with me. A bunch of us are gonna do probably maybe starting on Sunday or Monday morning. More or less, I'm confining myself here, unless catastrophe in the hospital, and meditating for a week as an online retreat. Some of us are doing. I'll share if that's something that we can offer more widely. And in the meantime, just do what you've been doing. It's been really helping us, and we feel we have some room, some space to prepare and respond. And that's in no small part due to what you've taken on that actually was a lot of my job before, which I spent a lot of my time, even before this virus, reassuring people of how their body was something they could trust. So you've taken that on. And I know it's stressful and you're worried, but we're very grateful. And I trust that we will come through this together. So that's it. I'm going to jump. I will be back here tomorrow, probably around the same time, I guess noon-ish. And I'll let you know what's happening in the ER and what cases we're seeing, what you can do, any cool numbers or science that comes up. And that's it. Okay. See you guys later.